Am I good? Okay, cool. Wait, I'm gonna go ahead and dive in here because I'm excited to do this, and I wanted to today. I wanted to talk about sales and operations, right? And those two things, when we look at the way a business is put together, um, and there's what we call, everyone loves to talk about top of funnel, and that basically really kind of means marketing, right? Which is how people hear about you, how people get in touch with you, and how you we get what we call a lead. And this is how kind of we could think of this as students if we're music teachers or whatever. But I want to talk about operations, and operations is kind of it's a vacuous term that's kind of all the processes of how your business flows and how it works, how customers experience it, how you process business and payments and that whole situation. And I want to discuss what I do for my personal studio today, and briefly, and also kind of the ethos behind that, because so much of how Fonz has been built, both initially and what it's become, are all based on this goal of creating a really smooth operations. And also the idea that every one of us, everybody that's doing business, it behooves us, and especially as creatives, where we like to be really free and be like, oh my gosh, it's just like people just show up and it's this thing and it's so groovy. It's so helpful to sketch out what we call an operational flow, which is how people, from the time they hear of us to the time that they're active customers that we're billing, how they go through that, so we can do the same thing every time, which will help us make it more comfortable for our customers, for one, and our students, so they're able to, to work with us easily, but also to eliminate the friction that we may experience or us missing something. Before I automated payments, I am embarrassed to say that, when I switched to automated payments 5 years ago, I had over $7,000 in outstanding payments, right? Because really great families had gone through divorces and never paid me, and I didn't even know it. That was the thing. I didn't know it until I looked back and I was like, oh my gosh, these people didn't pay me from 3 years ago, and they paid me every other month for 3 years. How did that possibly happen? So putting a checklist in place is kind of really the idea that I wanted to talk about today, but I'm going to do it in kind of relation to my teaching studio that I've had in here in Seattle for a long time. I'm going to take your questions. I'm going to show you around. If anybody wants to ask me any questions, I may miss you in the chat, because once I start talking and get all like jazz hands and stuff, I may miss it. So just flag me down. Feel free to stop me. We'll definitely have time to answer your questions at the end. But what I wanted to start with is how I use it. And I am in Seattle, Washington. I have been teaching here for over 20 years. I'm a third generation music teacher. My wife and I have run a small music school here, excuse me, forever. And I started the deal of working in local schools. I worked at Holy Names Academy, worked at American Music School, and I ended up getting my own big body of students and supporting myself and opening a studio here in Seattle. So the reason I mentioned that is my top of funnel, how I get students, is pretty well defined, in that it's mostly word of mouth. I've been doing this here for a long time. I have a huge client base, and I've, for the last 10 or 15 years, ever since I kind of raised my rates to a really professional rate, I've been able to kind of have as many students as I need to, as many as 50 when I was just doing teaching by myself. And for the last 5 years, while starting and running Fonz, I've been teaching 20 students every week, which I just recently realized is impossible. And I'm in the process of paring that down this summer, because I was about to lose the joy for a second. So what's really important to me in how I run my business is I need it to be very simple. And Tony is another example of someone who does this really well, in that you want your business to be well respected, but you want to be treated well by your clients, but you want to keep it super simple. If they don't want to come and they don't want to be there, you don't want to teach them. You want to provide a great service, and you want to be awesome, but you don't want any friction, right? And so these are the things that are most important to me. I've got to have a very professional setup. I can't be namby-pamby about it like I was the first 10 years I taught. I have to charge a high rate because I'm raising a family in Seattle. And I have a lot of people trying to get with me, but also I'm teaching people that are very professional, right? Over the years, I've taught, just a lot of folks in this, as you can imagine, in the Seattle scene, or where we are, they expect professionalism, they want it. And it's actually easier if I give them a professional experience. The other thing is, as many of you know, I'm super vibey. I'm a hugger, and I'm very invested in my clients. So service is everything for me. I don't need to have crazy automations to where they have to do all this stuff. I am happy to reach out and take care of my clients and get them set up, and to do whatever they need. Many of them feel very comfortable contacting me. So these are all things about my business that might make it different than others, but I think they're important to think about when you're doing this for your own business. Like, what matters to you? My community of clients is their family. They helped raise my kids. I helped raise their kids. My children grew up on my studio floor while my students would come in and take lessons. And when they were babies, my students' parents would hold my babies, which was so awesome. I mean, it's been such a good run, but that's been kind of the center of this business model. On the other side of that, I think it is very important to maintain absolute control. And although I do all these things, which is like, really engage myself in the community, I'm really, really hell-bent on understanding where people are coming in, when they're paying me, and choosing that flow, right? Because when I first started, especially when you're dealing with, professional clients and people that are, powerful people in their industry, whatever, they expect, and they're often comfortable pushing you around to try to serve their needs, right? For instance, I might say, I teach in the studio. I do all online. They say, well, when can you come over to our home? And I'm like, I don't do in homes. And they're like, well, what time should you be there? Right. And then, 20 years ago, I'd say, fine, I'll come to your house. Next thing you know, half my students, I was driving to their house. Right. And it took a long time to pull that control back. And I think in any of the work we do, and this can be for your studio or your business or mine, is maintaining control is massive. Because if you can create a beautiful flow that provides service, and that is really helpful and that you're in control of, you can not only maximize your revenue, which you'll notice is last on my list, right? I know that revenue will come if I do all these other things, right? That's never been really an issue. I've been able to honestly make as much money teaching as I want to, right? Up into the mid six figures. That's never been the challenge for running my studio. The studio, everything else has been making sure I'm in control of my time and in control of my mission, and doing it in a way that I'm like this about, I'm smiling and I feel great about. So that's how we're going to talk about this very simple flow that I'm going to show you today that might seem too simple, but it's worked really well for me. The other thing before we kind of jump in is we have 3 to 4 ways of billing that we've identified our clients that are awesome and that eliminate invoicing. And we encourage everyone to get rid of invoicing as soon as they can in our work, because automating it is the key to getting rid of like 85-90% of your admin tasks. I mean, if you have 3 students and it's worth automating them. If you have 1 student, it's worth automating them, just because you never have these uncomfortable conversations, right? Which is, why'd you pay me? Where's the money? What's going on? It just takes so much off the table. I choose this thing called per appointment billing. It was the very first billing model that we created at Fons because it was the most obvious, right? As we were doing this, Uber and Lyft were blowing up. And this idea of, oh my gosh, Karen shows up for her lesson to go over the music to her part for Sound of Music today. I'm accompanying her. At the end of that, her card just gets billed for the amount of the lesson, right? You agree up front. I set my client up one time. Every week they come in. I put them in a reoccurring appointment. That card gets billed. I love this because it's flexible, because I also run a technology startup. So there are times when I'm needing to travel or have a meeting with investors or lawyers, and I need to cancel. And I feel great about this because I can be flexible. They can be flexible because I'm also charging them more, right? I've been doing this a long time, and they get that. Since they're willing to pay me more, I'm willing to give them that flexibility they need. And so there are 2 or 3 other great billing models, and we'll talk about those another time. And if you think those are really pertinent to your whatever you're doing, we're happy to talk about them. And I'll do another video kind of appointment kind of like this and discuss them. But today we'll talk about what I do, which is this Uber style model. I've loved it because cash flow is great. I've loved the flexibility. I love how fair it is. I never feel weird about explaining my cancellation policies, right? If somebody blows me off, they know they're going to get billed. Anyway, their card gets charged. They never complain because they've been notified that it's coming. I love how simple it is. And I also have data that over the course of the year, like some of the top, I should say many of the top providers on the platform. Rob Hampton's another great example of somebody that was an earlier user of this. If you don't know him, he runs Heartwood Guitar. He's one of the most successful guitar instructors in the country, and a really cool guy. This model over time, your revenue, you make just as much or more, right? Because you're focused on people showing up, you're focused on doing a great job, you're getting paid every week. Your clients feel totally respected and honored, and the vibes are great. So wanted to go over that really quick before we dive into the UI of the app and the flow of that. And the other piece is wrapping our mind around that we're doing sales, right? So we're actually talking today about it's really kind of sales, setting up our operations and sales the way we want to. I know sales is a sticky word, but we want to think of our process of our operations of bring someone in to say, oh my gosh, Karen, you've got this audition coming up. Let me see how I can help you. Am I a great fit for you? This is how much I charge. And getting to know this client, which all of, everybody in this group and everybody we work with is so awesome at, is understanding and calling it what it is you're meeting with a prospective client that has somehow gotten in touch with you and to see if you're a great fit. And we call it sales because that's what it is. And I know it's a hard word to use, but it's really helpful to look at this under the lens of sales and operations. Okay. So for me, every time I talk to somebody, I'm trying to get emphatic buy-in, right? So when a new client engages me and whether it's they message me and say, I heard about you through here, or I saw you perform there, or you taught this kid, can you help me with my kid? I want to get them amped. And this is my goal. And so I want everything else to be simple. And I only have two things I need to do. I need to get them bought in, whether it's through a meet and greet or a quick connection, or it's a phone call, whatever I can do to get them so stoked about what I'm doing that they're ready to sign up. And then the absolute goal is I want to put them into a reoccurring time slot. So they come every week. This is where I don't want to talk about big business stuff today, but this is where we talk about LTV, lifetime value of clients, filling up your calendar, and also not having to do anything. If they're in a reoccurring slot with a payment method on file, you're done. Like then they just go and then you just keep going and you live your life and they're set up and you don't have to touch them anymore. That's why it's so important to get this thing set up quickly and set up correctly. We just need to get them a time, a payment method on file, and then you're set. So the other things we'll talk about today, and feel free, I'm going quickly because I want to get into the app and I want to be fast. So am I talking too fast or are you guys keeping up with me here? Awesome. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about onboarding. And again, hopefully as you're seeing this, you're thinking about yourself, right? And so onboarding is our sales process. Our top of funnel is when someone contacts us, right? And we're not talking about marketing today. We're talking about sales. And what we want to do is we want to say exactly how it's going to go. We want to be in control. I'm going to continually use the words control because I think that's critical. Onboarding, sales, and operations. These are like the things we're looking at. And the other things you'll hear me say a lot is friction. We're trying to get rid of friction to make it as easy as possible. So there are two ways to onboard a client, right? Now, when they call you and you meet them, at that moment, you can you add them into your system, you can whatever, or you can say, okay, good, I'm going to talk to this person. And I think you should write this down. Like everyone should have a plan. The goal is to get someone on the phone with you or to have an email with you or to have a first meet and greet, which I love doing the meet and greet. But usually before the meet and greet, someone will call me, email, and I'll get them on the phone for 5 or 10 minutes. It's well worth your time to invest in that. People that try to automate themselves out of the initial greeting with a new human being in a relationship-based business, that is never wise because we are all relationship builders. You're not going to close as many people as the person that gets on the phone and says, oh my gosh, I can't wait to meet your kid. That's so cool that they're already learned how to play Seven Nation Army and they're having so much fun. I'm in, right? So the goal is to create them an appointment, which you can do on your end. That's control. The other one is they can book an appointment through your public booking link. You give up a little bit of control, but that's okay too, because that lets them work a little bit their schedule. So let's go ahead and I'm going to off this for just a second. I want to show you all what I'm talking about here within the app. And before we do, does anybody have any questions about this kind of overview and what we're trying to outline? Hopefully you're hearing this not just about me talking about myself, but Tracy, you said you were getting ready to redo how you do things, but you're thinking this in terms of yourself, right? Like, do I have a funnel up top in place where people are calling me? I'm going to build this beautiful, very simple flow for once people come in. and how I'm going to every single time do the same thing so I can practice it. I want to jump over into the app now and show you how this will kind of look in practice, and then answer some questions, and we can talk further as well. But this is my Fonz account. So I just this is my calendar for this week, and I'm going to show you. We're going to work with it in a test environment as well. But the way this works is I've got, for everybody that I teach online, I click on this, I can have a link that they get as well, and their notifications that I'll show you in a moment, that will open up our Zoom call or tell us where we are if we're in a location. And just following, their or just outside of when that appointment is set to go, they'll get a notification. But let me run over here into a spot. This is actually not real, but this is what I use to test the platform. So we can look in here. As you can see, we've got lessons. And again, I can go into this lesson. This person's going to get dinged $200. I've got my cancellation policy automated, which is one of the biggest things about our operation, right? I have a 36-hour cancellation policy, which means, and it's so cool, like 50 hours or so before our lesson, the system sends out the first notification that says, hey, Stanley, we have a lesson. If you're out of town, you can't make it, click this button to cancel it now, okay? And it's so respectful, because a lot of times, including myself, I'll be out of town and will have forgotten to tell my provider for my children that I'm out of town, right? And I'm like, oh gosh, I have to cancel a day of. I expect to pay it because I work in this business. But a lot of times people want to tell you. And so this just is a great way to have goodwill and good faith between you and your clients. If you have a cancellation policy and they cancel an appointment 50 hours outside of your lesson, you're all good because they're following your rules. And that gives me time. I have a list of people that would want the slot if I wanted to do that. So that's kind of the basic gist of our calendar. But I wanted to go through kind of my onboarding process, which is, let's say, someone has called me, and I have someone on the phone, and let me see if here, great. And I'm talking to Terrence Clayton, right? And this person have not yet put into the system. They're about to go in, and we're on the phone. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take control of this narrative this time. I'm only offering 2 ways to get into my system. One is I'm on the phone with Terry, and I'm like, wow, this is a great vibe. I think this could be a really good fit. I want to teach his child or teach him. And I think I'm willing to go forward. The other is Terry could have booked an appointment through my public booking link that I'll show you in a second. But so we're here. We're feeling really, really good about this. Oh, I think I might have done the wrong thing. Sorry. I have to, I'm using the old, you all know the Gmail test of doing plus to be able to create test accounts. Does everybody know that? Let's see, that should do it. Gosh, oh yeah, I have this. Sorry, talk amongst yourselves for a second. I've got so many of these in here. There we go. So I've got Terry on the phone. I've got him in my system now, right? And as you can see here, I'm gonna set Terry up. He does not have a payment method set yet, and our next big deal is we're trying to get to make sure that they're in the system, that they have an appointment, and that their payment methods are set. So I have taken control of the narrative. There's only 2 branches. Terry can come to my system through a public booking link, and if he did, he would already have an account like this in an appointment. The other way is Terry could have, I'm creating this for him, and I'm going to have him on the phone, and I'm going to take control of this narrative as we're discussing this. In this moment, it is just fine for me to say, oh my gosh, this is a great fit. Why don't I go ahead and get you set up? I'm here to serve you. I'll save you the time. I'll just go ahead and we can add your payment information right now. Right. And Terry's like, oh my gosh, that is so cool of you. You're like, oh yeah, it's no big deal. That's what we're here to do. So you're going to get billed after each lesson. It's no big deal. So, okay. So I'm here with Terry. I get him all set up. Now, the other path that we can do, and this is all secure through Stripe and Plaid as we're getting them up and running, right? So as the next step, and once we're saved, and that little icon that his payment method is on file, is I can book him into an appointment. Now I'm going to come back here, And I want to talk about this idea too, is that I've got them now in the system. There's only two ways to do it. And I'm going to reiterate this again and again. The control method is that I've just put him in the system. I've actually gotten his payment method. If I didn't, the other way that I can do it is I can create an appointment for Terry. So I can say, oh my gosh, it looks like I've got a Thursday at 4:30 available for Terry, right? So now that he's in here, right, I'm going to select this as a myself. And this is the appointment create. So I'm going to, can everybody see this okay as I go through this? Just this is a nice moment to just kind of show you if you haven't seen it. So here's Terrence. Now, I am a verified provider, which this is a somewhat super secret feature for people that have been around for a while, which allows us to auto confirm, right? If we're not verified, we don't have this, but this is one of the coolest features of Fons is that I've put Terry's information in. He's like, great, set me up. I don't want him to have to do anything. He said, we've agreed to this deal. His payment method is entered. I'm going to auto confirm this to automatically bill. Now the person I'm teaching is actually his child. So we're building this appointment out. Terry's coming. Amanda's his daughter. She's going to be the person in the lesson. I can add my Zoom link here. I can add where my physical location is. If I do add a Zoom link, my personal meeting room or my Musi link, whatever it is I'm using, it will create a clickable link. So these people, when they get their notifications, they just click on it and show up. It's awesome. I can use my description to put in any policy that you may want to have. I don't even do it because I know people don't read policies, and my thing is so simple that I'm just like, yeah, I don't have time for it. So I think we're going to put him in at 4:30. Now this is pretty cool. Now we're getting Terry in for a recurring appointment, right? And this is a new feature that if you haven't seen this yet, it's amazing, is that let's say I'm trying to get Terry into this Thursday at 4:30 p.m., not a.m. Nice save, Branner. And I want to check to see if anybody has signed up for that. I looks into the future and make sure I didn't have a one-off appointment somewhere in the future. If you've been doing this a long time, you double book people. I've triple booked people before back in the day. This stops that moment of having 3 students show up at the same time at your studio. So this check conflicts feature is awesome when you're booking a recurring appointment. Just make sure you don't have anything else going over top of that. And then here, pardon. We're going to charge him. We already have our payment information in, right? And as we go down this list, what's so cool about, and what we'll talk about another time is this is the per appointment billing model. I can always create an appointment that's not charged, right? If you're on some kind of tuition system or you're just doing a meet and greet, you can create a do not charge appointment. It will not ask for their credit card if they don't have one in. The other option is prepaid, right? Which is whether they have a prepaid package or a subscription. Those are the other cool billing models that actually let you eliminate invoicing. So in this case, we'll do that and we'll talk about it later. The other cool thing is any personal appointment can be made into a group appointment by just clicking this. I'm not going to, but I can turn that into a class, right? Which is super awesome. I could create a weekly yoga class if I could touch my toes, and have a limit on clients, and they can book that via your public booking. Now today, we're going to go ahead and send this invitation so you can see it. And this is what Terry's going to see. He's going to get this notification that says, hey, this is scheduled. Amanda has her lesson. You'll have your logo here. This is what's going to cost. We're going to be every week. It's going to clearly outline your cancellation policy. They'll be able to click on it. If you need to, you can send yourself a test here, right? If you want to see what your client's going to get first, anytime you send a notification, but you get to see it first. So we'll get Terry scheduled. And now here's Amanda on our calendar. She's ready to go. She's already set up. She's confirmed. They don't need to do anything. And then Amanda's in. This is the goal, right? So we've got Amanda set up. She's coming every week. You'll see that she's this Thursday. You'll see that she's next Thursday. Now all I have to do is teach. I've done those 2 things. I've gotten her into a recurring spot. All I have to do is be awesome now, right? I've got their payment information in. So this is the optimal flow. They can, of course, cancel. They can quit at any time. That's fine too. But this is that open, super groovy flow that what people can come in. I wanted to show you while I'm here, before we jump off, and make sure I'm not forgetting, you can also have people come in through your public booking link, which Tony was talking about before. Now I'm logged in a test environment. So if you have a client that you see, and this is the great thing if you bill people different rates, Fons will know who they are and will show them what their average appointment is, right? So they can book on what their regular appointment should be. But a new client will just have these two options. I have a meet and greet and I have a private lesson. You pick what you want, you pick your time, and go and book that appointment. This takes you to, and so you can put this on your website if you wanted to. This takes you to that moment back in our funnel we talked about at the beginning, that now they'll be in your system. They won't have a credit card, right? They won't have a payment method in unless they choose this. And this is what Tony was talking about. If they were to choose a private lesson for $100 for 45 minutes, the system would say, oh, there's a cost affixed to it. You need to enter your payment information to book this appointment, right? So you've got your bases covered. But just that little thing, what Tony was saying, is adding in the meet and greet or the session or the at a reduced cost and then the regular cost session, 2 branches. Each branch could have payment or no payment. And what he's saying is pruning one of those makes it that much more simple. So that's kind of the basis for what I do 95% of the time, which is just this, which is get them on the phone, get them bought in, get them thrilled, add them into your system, add a payment method, hopefully on your side, do as much as you can for them, right? If you're not a verified provider yet, you will be soon. And if you're not, then it's as simple as that message that goes out. They just need to enter their payment information and confirm that appointment for you, right? So that's like the only difference between those two realms. So that's my flow, and that's really it. I'm sure maybe some of you will have some questions or some ideas, but that's the move. Oh, for those people that haven't seen it before, let me show you one other thing really quickly too, because I didn't show you this, the billing side of things, right? Which is that the awesome thing is all this stuff goes to one place. You're not doing Zelle, Venmo, cash, check. You're in one place, right? So all of your transactions happen one spot. So, on Wednesday, Missy Ellie showed up for a lesson. Her lesson was over. She got billed, right? Everything's right here. That money goes deposited straight to your bank. You know exactly what's going on. The super cool thing is, let's just, for whatever reason, Missy Elliott's lesson was terrible. You have this great friction reliever of saying, oh my gosh, I was late. I was in a car wreck. I'm going to refund you half your money, right? You can do a full or partial refund right here, right? So you've got this kind of backdoor out in the billing section if you need it, which is awesome because mistakes happen, or sometimes bad fits happen where you'll teach somebody to say, oh my gosh, you can't ever come to my studio again. I'm going to refund your money and I hope you have a great life. I've never done that, but it's great to have it in your back pocket. So anyway, that's kind of the key of how I went from, 15 to 20 hours a week of admin time that my wife was doing to running my studio, in 5 to 10 minutes a week, maybe 20 minutes on a big week, always getting paid on time. And, the ramp in revenue is crazy. And the other billing models are well worth exploring. And we can talk about them another time, but this is what I do. So if anybody has any questions or like feedback or would like to see something more deeply, I'd love to answer it.